Well, 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 what a qualifying session to start the year, eh? I thought for a moment that McLaren had bottled it again. Lando Norris, of course, that off track, his first lap time deleted. Oscar Piastri nowhere to Max Verstappen's provisional pole lap time. And then they put in two stonker laps that were less than a tenth to separate them. Clearly being the best of everyone else and, yeah, locking out that front row. But oh, it's a mouth-watering prospect, them heading down into turn 1 tomorrow, isn't it? Even down into turn 3 as well. I think there's going to be some fireworks. I'm intrigued to see how Lando handles it. No doubt, Max Verstappen, who lines up in P3, who will be over the moon with that, considering how he's complained about the car all weekend, and it does look to be a handful, especially over a single lap, let alone what it's going to be like for 54 laps. We will see, but he'll be hoping that there are some fireworks in front of him that he can take advantage of. But let's start from the beginning and look at Q1 and just have a run through and my thoughts on what's happened in this first qualifying session of the year. So Q1, the big topic really is that, what is it? There's a few stories actually out of Q1. The first is that Ollie Bearman gearbox issue. Bearing in mind they replaced the gearbox, that's the information that was relayed to us after his big crash on Friday in FP1. And yeah, he couldn't even set a single lap. Ocon way off the pace as well. So that Haas, I thought maybe they were cooking and they were going to have a decent year again, but they are definitely starting on the back foot, it seems. Australia is a track that they've had mixed fortunes at, I guess. So it might not be the best representative track for them. But for them to be that far off the pace in P19 and P20 tomorrow, it's not a good start to their season, that's for sure. Of course, the big topic of conversation will be the double elimination of Liam Lawson and Antonelli. Apparently, Antonelli, he had some damage to his floor. How much of an impact that played on him, I'm not sure. If you look at his onboard, Antonelli, we know he's aggressive, we know he's quick, but seems to be using a bit more of the track than maybe is necessary. He's an avid sim racer. It's a sim racing tactic to use all the track that is required to try and utilize and open up the corners and extract as much speed as possible, but I don't think it's working here at Australia. It may work at certain circuits, but not here at the Aussie circuit, where of course there's a lot of gravel traps. So yeah, a lot of work for him to do tomorrow, starting in the bottom 5. And then of course Liam Lawson, his day was hampered, of course, with no running in FP3 with that engine issue, and he's the only driver this week as well who has not ever done a race or a single lap before turning up this weekend at Albert Park. So that is definitely something to take into consideration. However, while his day was hampered with the issue with the engine in FP3 and he hasn't done any laps here previously, I still expected him to get out of Q1. And he made an error into turn 13, which is the second to last corner, where he locked up. And well, the tyres, we've been told by numerous drivers and team principals that the tyres are just, on these push laps, the softs, they're not very good. We won't see them in the race at all, unless there's like a red flag at the end again, as we saw a few years ago, and there's only a couple of laps to be raced. But the soft tyre is just not lasting really a full lap. It's giving way towards the end, and when you need that grip most in that slower, tighter Sector 3, a sector that the Red Bull looked an almighty handful. Lots of corrections from both Lawson and Max every time I saw their onboards through there. Lawson locked up. All we needed to do was just navigate those last two corners and he would have easily got through Q1. So yes, driver error for Liam Lawson there. A costly one, and he has a lot of work to do, but he comfortably would have got out of there without that. I guess that's the only positive for him. Not a great start, and look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be too harsh on the rookies in their first race because Melbourne is a very kind of unique circuit and sometimes, in a sense, a difficult circuit to arrive to for your first F1 race in your full season as well. Q2, of course, Bortoleto was a big story here, getting through to Q2. knocking out his own teammate and knocking out Antonelli, getting ahead of Liam Lawson, the back-to-back F3 and F2 champion, in a car that we still don't expect to score really any points, but still, it's a nice little win for him and a positive he can take away this evening heading into the race tomorrow. Knocked out in Q2, understandably, in P15, but a good Q1 nonetheless to get that stake F1 out. I don't think there'll be too many times this season they make it out of Q1 as the drivers get up to speed and the teams get to grips with their cars. But yes, I guess kind of the talking point in Q2 was that a few laps, I believe, were interrupted by Lewis Hamilton's spin out of turn 11, I think it was. Very bizarre moment for Lewis Hamilton. You don't often see that. Maybe still getting to grips with that Ferrari car. But yeah, Doohan, who looked like he was comfortably getting the better of Gasly. When I guess the pressure came down to it, he got qualified by Gasly. But still, to get through to Q2, it's solid. It's a foundation for him to build upon. How long he's going to have to build upon that, I don't know. No doubt, Flavio Briatore will be a very harsh character as he is, stating, well, you should be in Q3 like your teammate is. That's just kind of the nature of things, and I guess F1 and the high-pressured environment they're in. And then we've got the Aston Martins, who I think are probably where we expect them to be. Maybe I expected them to be even lower, but solid in Q2, nowhere near getting into Q3, and who knows what's in store for them in the race. Maybe they've got an even worse race car than they do a car that's over a single lap. And Isaac Hadjar, a very positive performance from him. The RBs look good in practice, and the fact that he's qualified in P11 is real good going. The best rookie qualifying performance out of today. So I don't think many people expected that from what I've seen from predictions, that many have him, and myself included, towards the lower end of the standings. Now, that's not to say that still won't be the case, but it's a good start to his F1 career to be just outside the points, and no doubt he'll be looking to get into the thick of things tomorrow. Now Q3, and let's start at the bottom half of Q3, and we'll leave the top four for just a moment, because we need to talk about Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon, and Williams in general, to be honest. And let's start with Williams, because a double Q3 qualification for them. Carlos Sainz will be very upset, no doubt, and a bit despondent that he wasn't able to convert at least one of those 2 laps in Q3 to be higher up and potentially in front of, or at least alongside, his teammate tomorrow. But the fact Williams both got into Q3 comfortably, and it's a good start to the season for them, bodes very well. I do expect Sainz to make up some positions tomorrow with Gasly alongside him, and of course Yuki Tsunoda we'll touch on in a second. But he'll truly be well in that fight tomorrow, I don't doubt. And no doubt he'll want to take it to his own previous team who dropped him, who are conveniently starting just in front of him. Imagine that, Carlos Sainz sending it on Lewis Hamilton round the outside into turn 1. Yeah, that would be a picture, wouldn't it? But yes, there were lots of rumblings, of course, through testing. Are they that quick? Aren't they? Same again this week. They look very good. And, well, yeah, proof is definitely in the pudding in the first performance-based session this season. And Alex Albon, well, I've had my question marks about him. Will he be able to rise up to the challenge of Carlos Sainz coming into the team? We know the calibre of opposition he's had alongside him for the past few seasons, and he's done a decent job in Williams. But could he have done better? Is he making that car? Is that car better than it actually is? And I think, really, yes, the car is better than maybe the results that Albon has been getting over the past few seasons. But that's also not to discredit Albon. People raise their game and they play better and perform better when you're playing alongside better sportsmen. At the end of the day, it's the case for all different sports. And I think that's the case for Albon here. And he definitely seems to have raised his performance, at least from this first data point we've got, I guess, by qualifying P6 alongside Sainz. He's either going to rise to it, or he's going to completely fall under, collapse under the pressure of, say, that expectation, because it is a massive year for him, for his F1 career and aspirations. If he gets trounced by Sainz, then, yeah, he isn't really going to be looked at a top team again, and he's value is going to drop dramatically up and down the paddock. But yeah, a good start nonetheless, and yeah, fully expect him at a track that he's gone well at in the past to be in the thick of it, to be the best, shall we say, of the rest, or the best of the midfield tomorrow. Now, Yuki Tsunoda, well, we know this is a man scorned, don't we? We know he feels that he should be in that Red Bull seat. He made a cheeky, snidey little comment about Liam Lawson and where he finished in FP2 yesterday, which I'll admit, I think that was mistimed. Have a step back, Yuki, and just realise it's FP2. Like, there's so many different caveats to where your finishing position is in FP2. Ultimately, it doesn't blooming matter. But where it does matter is in qualifying and the race on Sunday. And now you can gloat a bit more, and now you can twist the knife in a bit more with those comments, because yes, you rightfully should, because you are up there in P5. What a lap by Yuki. Now, it's all well and good him being in P5, but Yuki needs to convert this tomorrow. He needs to, because he needs to start off strong, and he has, as I've done a deep dive on his career, and you can check the video out on that, on his 4 seasons in F1, while he has many highs, and this is no doubt a high for him, he has just as many lows, and he does have a lot of experience of being in good point scoring positions and throwing those results away. So he needs to realise tomorrow his fight isn't with the Ferraris. He can only control what's in his control, and what's in front of him. Look, if strategy or poor pit stops happen, so be it. But ultimately, he needs to not throw away a point scoring position because of his own decision making, which he has done in the past. And it's important for him to show that he has grown in that regard. And I think, without going too much into it, I think that's one of the reasons why, a driving related reason why he was overlooked compared to Liam Lawson for that Red Bull seat. However, it's still a great qualifying position for him. I don't think anyone really expected P5 for him in this, especially starting ahead of the 2 Ferraris, who we need to talk about now, don't we? It's a disappointing start for him. You can't beat around the bush. P7 and P8. I mean, Lewis Hamilton seemed to be quite upbeat. I mean, he seems to be just happy that he's for Ferrari. I think not being trounced by his teammate in the first qualifying session of the year does seem to be that he's got a bit more of a setup geared towards maybe the wet weather conditions that are expected tomorrow in Albert Park. So we will see if that's the case. But he's been consistently just slightly off the pace of his teammate, understandably, throughout the duration of this weekend. But I don't think either Ferrari driver expected that they'd be down in P7 and P8, let alone split by an RB and a Williams. So Charles Leclerc faltered on his last lap. Unfortunately, you would have expected him to at least be challenging for the bare minimum, the second row. And unfortunately for them, even if there's wet weather conditions tomorrow, they've got 2 obstacles in their way in the form of that Williams and that RB car to get past, which could take them some time to do, because we know how difficult it is to overtake with the dirty air more prevalent now as the regulations have developed, and let alone at a track where it is notoriously difficult to overtake, even with 4 DRS zones. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see if they can utilize that strong race pace that they've showcased over the practice sessions. But yeah, starting down in 7th and 8th is not good. It's just not good. It's not what any team who wants to win a Constructors or a Drivers' Championship can afford to do on the regular, especially with how close qualifying is now and just the general performance of these cars. And the top 4. Well, let's start at the top then, shall we? All front row lockout between McLaren. Thought they were going to bottle it, as I said at the start of the video, with Lando not setting a lap time, it being deleted, not being good enough to even be near pole position anyway. And for Oscar Piastri to be 16.1 seconds it was at the time, to then improve over a second in lap time the next time around. Pretty much the same for Lando Norris as well. 0.08 of a second separating the 2 McLaren drivers. Very little to separate them. That is a great statement, and a strong statement to start the year. How it will end at the end of the first lap tomorrow, who knows? Because Oscar Piastri is definitely not going to want to give up a position or a P1. He's going to send it he's so no doubt going to send it at the start. He's going to give every opportunity he can to win his home Grand Prix. The first race of the season where he's potentially in a car that can win a World Drivers' Championship, and he wants to stake his claim as the #1 driver early on so he can get that priority treatment that he needs to win a championship. Any driver needs to win a championship, really. It's going to be exciting. Lando starts on the outside. How good of a start is he going to get? He's going to have to cover off the inside. He's going to have to have learned from last year and ensure that he takes the power. Head of the Apex rule exists, and you need to utilize it whether you like it or not. And if you drive your teammate off of the circuit because he wants to drive around the outside of you, even if it's at his home circuit, sorry, you need to use the rules to your advantage. But yes, they were comfortable for Q1 and Q2. They've been comfortable for all practice sessions. They kind of hid their pace a little bit in FP3. But yeah, that pace, sticking 3 to 4 temps nearly over Max Verstappen in P3 is a good start to the year, and their race pace looks very ominous as well. Now, Max Verstappen, what a lap from him. Unfortunately, as we have mentioned previously, the tyres just gave out at the end of the lap for Max Verstappen, and he struggled and lost a bit of time in that last sector, but he was purple in the first and second sector, but that last sector was unfortunately just too far off the pace to get close to those McLarens. But he lines up in P3. He'll be over the moon with that, considering he's not been happy with the car. He's played down expectations heading into this weekend, and well, that Red Bull looks a mighty handful. I'm intrigued to see how it handles over 54 laps tomorrow in the Australian Grand Prix, because I feel like that's a car that could potentially be like the Ferrari was a few years ago, where it's quick over a single lap, he can challenge for pole positions, but in its current state, it's just too much of a handful to comfortably manage those tyres for 54 laps. I just think there's too much sliding around, there's too much rear instability, you can see on the onboards from Lawson and Max, but there's just too many corrections of the car, and then you're going to combine dirty air with that as well, and it's going to make it 10 times worse. So I'm intrigued to see, if we get dry conditions tomorrow, how Max handles that and the Red Bull performs. But if it's in wet conditions, Max will probably be happy with that, because it's a great nullifier. But we'll see. We will see. And then George Russell slots in P4. I mean, we've spoken about fireworks at the front of the grid between Lando and Oscar Piastri. There's beef between Max and George. This has gone massively under the radar. Ooh, George sends it on Max down the inside, maybe, at the start. Who knows? Who knows? But yes, George slotting in his Mercedes in P4. Maybe expected to be up there. Maybe he didn't. But we'll see. The Mercedes, I feel like it's still a bit of an unknown. Don't know whether it's good race pace or not. Don't know if it's a car that's quick over a single lap. I mean, it's definitely not quick over a single lap compared to the McLarens. But George was saying that he felt more comfortable and they were quicker on the hards and mediums than they were on the softs. And we're not going to see the soft compound tyre tomorrow at all. Even if it starts wet weather conditions and dries up, it will be the hard compound tyre. No doubt will be the tyre of choice for many. So yeah, I think a very interesting qualifying to start the year. Not as maybe mixed up as I thought it would be. I did expect Antonelli and Lawson to do better than they did, but look, they've got plenty of time to improve, no doubt. They're at Red Bull, I think, and Mercedes, they'll be given time, and yeah, there's still the race tomorrow for them to recover. Lots of things to keep an eye out on. Remember to tune into my watch along. I'll be live at 3 a.m. Oh, it hurts me to say that just out loud. I'll be live at 3 a.m. for our pre-race show, and then of course the race kicks off at 4 a.m. UK time. So be sure to turn your notifications on so you get alerted when I'm going live, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you for the race watch along tomorrow. Bye.